I'm legitimately just trying to get ready for a track day, and it seems like the crank hub spun. As it's dark, and it's been a while, I hope this thing starts. You might be saying, what do you mean? Isn't that your M4? Well, yes it is. I actually spun my crank hub recently. As you can see, the battery is obviously discharged. It does sound like the engine is running fine. Now you might be saying, well, I thought you spun your crank hub. And we'll get into that. Let's talk about it. So as you can see, I got all the lights in the low tire pressure because, yeah, I didn't fill them up beforehand. But I got the check engine light. That's for two reasons. One is I have a bad O2 sensor, which I still need to replace. I haven't done that yet. And the other reason is the spun crank hub. Now, believe it or not, this is actually not the first time that I've spun my crank hub. So I'll insert that clip here. Uh-oh, crank hub issues. Not good. Not good at all. When I bought the car, I got it brand new in 2018 with like 36 miles on it. I did eventually tune the car on boot mode 3. I ran some off-the-shelf maps. I ran like the stage 1, and I ran the GTS map, and I also ran the CS map. Not too long after, I decided to put the car on E85. Now, this is at no fault of the tuner or anything like that. He warned me, but yeah, in 2018, spun the crank hub with 9,000 miles on the car. I did actually just put the car all back to stock. I had flashed the car with different revisions and tunes and all that stuff like that, which BMW told me that I did it 36 times because I took it into the dealership and the car got flagged. Now, they actually did take the car apart because I had intake and exhaust camshaft codes, which go along with the spun crank hub issue. But in doing so, BMW North America noticed that the car had been tuned, which was totally true, but hey, I wanted to see what BMW could do for me. And they said, you know what, it's running. Mind you, I should say this, it was running. I drove it there, it was fine. Basically, the car was slightly out of time. This situation can be catastrophic, or it can be kind of minor. The engine can go slightly out of time, like my car is right now, or it can go majorly out of time, which means it smashes all the valves into the pistons, bends valves, your car does not run. No bueno. So, I should explain when it happened, actually on this same road. So I live in Sacramento, and I am taking you guys to a NorCal shop that is going to be doing the crank hub install. It was something I thought about doing, but man, when I was just looking at all of the tools and all that, I'm like, I'm going to be into it $800, which is normally what I, you know, would be okay with, but I just didn't want to screw it up, man. Like, I never done it before. If I had a friend that had done it before, I'd totally do it at the house. Drilling into the crankshaft is whatever, but yeah, this was the road. It was actually a rainy day like this. Maybe I'll turn on my windshield wipers. And I spun the tires on E85, and when it hooked up, the car re-hooked up, and I think I was in 3rd gear. It just threw codes, and then I was in a no boost situation, which is what I'm in now. So I have no boost to the car, and you know, it's basically just running in a limp mode. The second time this happened, it actually happened like 2 months ago. And huge shout out to Keys Motorsports. I got the VAC crank hub from them. I really like the VAC one. It's really nice. It's a 4-pin one. I think that the quality of it is very good. And I like that it comes with a jig and it comes with like a milling bit, something that you would kind of see in a CNC machine. That's really nice as well. The second time I was going to the racetrack. Now, for the longest time, I did not have the car tuned after BMW fixed it. So I should state that BMW did fix my car because they tore it apart. And they said, well, if the motor's screwed, it's on you, which was not cool, but it was cool because it was good. So that was great. I actually had an aftermarket crank hub, and I was like, hey, do you guys want to install this? I'll pay you to install this, but the dealership said no. So at that time, I basically just got the car retimed, a new crank hub, and yeah, it was good until about 52,000 miles. During that time, I think I ran about probably about 30,000 miles untuned with a lot of track time. As you guys may be aware, I'll show you later, but this car is a time attack car. You know, hits the cage, hits the seat, hits that big old wing hanging off the back and the front arrow. And this thing's a beast. I absolutely love it. I did eventually put a tune on the car. For the longest time, I was just running the CS Plus map because I felt that that was within BMW's spec power limits, which I still think, you know, is probably the best map to run if you're worried about it. And then again, I probably drove the car 500, maybe probably less miles than that to the track since I've been tuned, again, like an actual pro tune, or, you know, where they look at the data logs and get some more juice out of the car. The thing felt pretty damn good. It felt a lot like a stage 1, but a little stronger and higher horsepower. I didn't get to do a dyno test on it, but still, it felt very good. I'm just driving to the racetrack, literally in a straight line, 80 miles an hour on the freeway. At one point, this is the only thing I can think of, at one point, I passed 2 semi-trucks. There was no kickdown, none of that stuff. The car was driving really good. I just literally downshifted a gear, passed 2 semi-trucks and got over. The car was still running fine. Then I went to the gas station right at the Thunderhill exit, filled the car up with gas to get ready for the track day like I always do. Started the car up, and it kind of gave me like a little bit of an extra crank. And I was like, that's weird. Didn't think anything of it. Then I went through the traffic light and I'm like, why does my car feel like there's no power? Then I look over, I'm like, oh yeah, did make that special BMW noise, but you know, I wasn't too worried about it because it was pretty cold out that day and I thought maybe it was just 37 or below. Turns out, no. As I'm driving to the track, I throw my scanner on and I'm reading intake and exhaust valve timing out of timing issues. So again, spun crank hub, and this time I really felt like I did nothing. Legitimately just trying to get ready for a track day, and it seems like the crank hub spun, honestly. Car's running, it just has an intake and exhaust camshaft out of position slightly. It's just very slightly out. This car's still running fine. It's really annoying because, yeah, this is the second time this has happened. So last time, like I said, it kicked down pretty hard and did a downshift. I think I did it from a kickdown on E85, and that's funny. And that was my bad. I didn't realize that was one of the main causes of the issue. I guess a lot of people say that a main cause is, you guys are unaware, but you hold down the paddle shifter and then floor it and kick down. You can go from 7th gear to 2nd to 3rd, whatever the car chooses. And in doing so, the car revs up really fast and it hits really hard on the transmission, which can jolt the essentially bolt that holds the timing chain and throw the car out of time. So that's what happened the first time. But the second time, I don't know what the heck happened. So a lot of people say this is a myth, this is a legend. No, it's not. It's happened to me twice, okay? It does happen. I would say it happens pretty commonly. I know at least 5 guys that it's happened to, but I know a lot of people that take the preventative measure beforehand and get the crank hub pinned. So, in my opinion, it kind of sucks that so many people did it in a way. I would have liked to have seen a lot more failures that BMW would have seen, because who knows, maybe they actually would have done a recall like they've done on every other M car for the past 3 generations, you know, with subframe issues, with rod bearings, whatever. It would have been nice for them to know, but no, everybody just said, you know, we'll spend between $2,000 and $4,000 to get the crank hub done, or it's a lot more than that actually, and get it done. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm driving there. Hopefully you guys like the little story. I'll take you to what I'm going to consider the place to go in NorCal to get your car done. And it's about 2 hours away from my house, which is quite a drive. I would have liked to have gone to a shop closer by in Sacramento. I talked to a few. Prices were absolutely outrageous, just out of this world. And I'm like, no. I got a quote, and I'm like, I got a quote from one that's by me that I know of, and close to $4,000, and that was with my crank hub. I already have the crank hub. That's a $1,300 part or $1,200 part, which I'll leave a link to Keys Motorsports where you can grab that down below. It does help out if you buy it through my link, so I'd appreciate it. if not, just head over to Keys and pick one up. Brian's an awesome dude, and you know, he appreciates your business. Here we are, Performance Dynamics. Let's see how this driveway is. Looks pretty decent.
You have arrived.
Just a little scrape, no big deal, no big deal. Taking the car to Performance Dynamics. They're up in Mountain View, basically like San Jose area or Palo Alto area, pretty close to me, 2 hours. But you know, overall, it just made sense for me to take it here. These guys have done quite a bit. I'm gonna show you guys how the S55 is kind of set up. So this is an insane one-piece design crank hub. You can see, obviously it doesn't key in or anything like that. This is the BAC Motorsports one that I'm gonna be putting in. You can see it's for N55 and S55, same crankshaft, same motor. Well, not necessarily, but pretty much identical. You can see here, this is a two-piece design with the pins. It's a 4-pin and it slots in very nicely. The lockup is nice and tight. BAC says that this reduces vibration quite a bit. I can actually see, like, to me, the difference in the quality and the machining on these two. Like, honestly, this one, the BAC looks a lot nicer in my opinion. I don't know what kind of finish is on here, but it's pretty sweet. This is the jig for this one. As you can see, it just goes through and bolts on, not keyed or anything like that. It just kind of shoves into the snub nose of the crankshaft itself and then bolts down. Where the BAC Motorsports one, it's pretty nice. You torque it down to 20 foot-pounds. It's threaded into the crankshaft, same as the crank bolt. And then you can see you use the little holes here as a jig for drilling. Pretty sweet. I'm really happy with my choice with the VAC one. The one-piece design, some people do say that it is stronger. Obviously, there's nothing that could break as far as pins go or anything like that. And the setup is pretty dang close. The VAC Motorsports one as well. This is the bit they give you. This is more of like something you'd see in a CNC machine, like a mill, for use without coolant. So, or coolant holes. Also, the VAC Motorsports one comes with this. This is basically a little catch to help it not suck in a belt into the engine through the front main seal. Performance Dynamics is not new to the crank hub thing. Obviously, we have quite a few stock crank hubs over here. Like I was saying, my first crank hub on my car, actually, it broke the friction ring. So you can see we have this two-piece design, which is slip. This one doesn't have a friction ring, but there are ones with the friction ring. And basically, the bolt just bolts on the front with quite a bit of torque, and you hope that these don't slip. Friction ring is right here. So you basically hope that these don't slip and throw your engine out of time. Best case scenario, your engine just gets out of timing and it runs and you can drive it to get it repaired, like mine is. If it slips a little more, you can slam all your valves into your pistons because it's an interference engine and it's no good. Not a good time. Bad news. And you're gonna have to rebuild your whole motor. So that's not cool. But yeah, this design is pretty junk, really, in my opinion. This is all basically captured by this one bolt going through the front of the crank hub. And it's all just friction fit. Not the greatest idea by BMW, but that is what it is. These jigs are pretty similar, but what you'll kind of think about is, well, where do I drill these holes? And apparently it doesn't actually matter where you drill the holes in the crankshaft, because you do the adjustment of the timing by locking down the actual engine at #1 top dead center and locking down the cams. Then you actually adjust the camshafts at the end with the camshaft sensors, and that's what sets your timing. So overall, that's kind of that scary part with the jig and with the drilling. But yeah, this is the other brand, and I don't like this as much. So I'm really happy that we're going with the VAC, and check it out. I'll leave a link down below to that if you can pick it up from Keys Motorsports, or these guys are probably going to start carrying it as well. Performance Dynamics. They like the look of this one quite a bit. So here's also a perfect explanation of how this works. This is actually an S55 block. The oil pump has a gear that runs off of it, and this gear goes right down to the crankshaft. Now you can actually see here that this crankshaft has been drilled. You can see 2 spots in this bad boy right here where it has, oh, this one has actually had a 4-pin at one point in time, and that is where you drill the holes into the crankshaft. So normally, almost every crankshaft ever on any motor has always had like a keyed snub that comes off the front, right? We have that shaft that goes off, and it's keyed. The keyway is in there, and that's what keeps our timing in check. Now, unfortunately, BMW did it this way, and literally without these holes, which is what we're doing now, it's just smashing this crank hub right down on top of the crankshaft there, and then we are just hoping that these don't spin out of time. And that's all done by that capture bolt, or that bolt at the top, and its compression downward, which is kind of sketch. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of that, and that's why you know, a lot of these engines have had issues, especially when they're tuned with having the timing going out and spinning the crank hub. If you guys are wondering, well, why is this block here? Well, as you can see, this little guy right here, it definitely looks like it, well, spun a bearing or something, but then you look over here and you have a nice little window that's not supposed to be there. So this thing definitely threw a rod right out the side of that S55 block. I don't know why, but definitely not a good thing to happen.
Another really cool thing I never knew is the S55 has oil squirters for the cylinder walls, just like the S54 does, which is really nice, and it keeps that extra juice in there to keep it lubed.
So I kind of want to explain this too. You can see kind of the inside snub of the nose of the crankshaft here. The Vargas style one, which is actually splined or keyed on the outside of the hub. Let me kind of show you what that looks like. I'll put a picture. But basically what they do is some nurdling around this little shaft right here, and it just smashes into the crankshaft. Now, I've actually had a couple friends where that during the installation, if this gets off canter any slight bit, it can actually chip away at the crankshaft or kind of mar the crankshaft in a way that's irreversible, and you basically need a new crankshaft. So I really don't like the Vargas version. Some guys do it because I think it's easier and you can get it done a little bit quicker just due to the lack of drilling, but I'm not a fan of that, and I'll overlay what that looks like on the screen.
So guys, I'm actually on my way back, and I ended up taking a train from Santa Clara, which is pretty close to the shop down there, all the way to Davis or Sacramento. So I work in Davis, and I left from Davis today. The other day I went to Sacramento, but anyways, pretty cool, man. Look at this. Very scenic. They got food on here. You can get beers, you can get drinks, you can get like margaritas and all that stuff. Pretty badass. We're heading down to go grab the car, and stoked to get it all done. So Performance Dynamics, all good. Glad they got it done. But yeah, I highly recommend hitting a train if you guys have not. These things are sweet. They got like, this is a dining car. Dude, it's like an airplane. 35 bucks. Oakland, where you can just bring light cars on fire, leave them next to the railroad. It's totally fine, no one cares. Alright guys, so just picking up the M4 from Performance Dynamics. They went ahead and changed out my crank hub with a VAC Motorsports one that I picked up from Keys Motorsports. So huge shout out to Performance Dynamics and to Keys Motorsports on that. Hell yeah. We got the M4 back. It's time to hit the track and go rip. We got the car back from Performance Dynamics. Feels good. They did have a little bit of an issue the one day with this pin that locks down the transmission. So they actually had to get in there and get that little pin out, and yeah, it took a little bit of extra time. So huge shout out to those guys for getting that fixed.
I guess that is something that can happen. So yeah, something to keep in mind, guys. That's why I'm really glad I didn't do this in my driveway, because if that would have happened to me, I would have been pretty pissed off, honestly. But overall, they got this thing all going. I got to go ahead and put some gas in the car, and we'll drive it home, because I got like six miles left on range. When I drove here the other day, I was very low on gas. So we're going to fill it up, drive it home. But yeah, overall, guys, just keep in mind, crank hub is something that is not a myth. It can definitely mess up. It has issues. And get it fixed if you're gonna tune the car. I did feel pretty confident about not getting it fixed if you're just running the car stock. I don't really think it's something that's gonna happen to you, as long as you're not like kicking the kick down a lot of the time and going from like a higher gear, say like 5th or 6th gear, all the way down to 2nd gear, and just mobbing it and mashing it. That's what I think really messes it up. Besides that, yeah, these engines are very strong and they can hold a lot of power. Definitely stoked on the work that Performance Dynamics did. Huge shout out to Keys Motorsports for the VAC Motorsports stuff. I'll leave a link down to that below in the description if you guys want to pick one up. You buy it through my link. Does not cost you anything more. It just helps out Keys Motorsports, and it helps me out a little bit with a cut of commission, which is very cool. Helps keep the channel going. Helps keep new things happening. Oh yeah, car feels absolutely great. It's nice to have boost again. It's nice to have horsepower and all that. Went ahead and just filled this thing up with gas. It's feeling absolutely great. It's ripping. It's definitely wet out, so got to pay attention to that. And the tires are definitely not that grippy. These are Pirelli WHs, which is a rain slick, but I think I mentioned this before earlier in the video. You got to get them hot, and they're not hot, so they're kind of all over the place. It's very easy to spin the tires, but the VAC Motorsports crank hub, I really like the look, the overall install. I really like the way everything's machined with that thing. It's one of the top quality parts in my opinion. One of the better.
In 0.1 miles, keep right.
It's one of the better crank hubs in my opinion. And I really like the look of it. So yes, sir. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Keep right.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Later, and wrench home.